of eulogies coming in into the country in regards to the business entities and the larger and the huge investors that we do have in the land who have actually been speaking more about the good things that BMK has laid on board for Uganda's economy. And not only that, however, he has actually also been of help to most of them and engaging into the business aspects of it as well. Now, at this particular juncture, we head to Mr. Mukesh Shukra, the CEO, SHUMUK Group of Companies, with his last eulogies about the late BMK. Take a look at this.
Greetings to all the viewers. And first of all, I would like to say on a sad note and condolences to the family for the great loss of my dear good friend Haji Kabirji, BMK Group of Companies, and it is a big shock. It will take us some time to absorb it, and I still feel it is a big dent not only in a business world and group of companies, but also especially in great human beingness in Uganda. So we have lost a very ardent and a good human beings who are always interested to take care of others, which definitely will have a shortage of his personality and his attitude in family, business, and all walks of life. So I'm still trying to get in terms. Of course, man proposes and God disposes, and this is how life is these days. We all are vulnerable, but at the same time, he was a good friend of over 2 decades with our group, and we have always used his wisdom to take so many decisions in our businesses, especially through Uganda Manufacturers Association. I think everybody knows him. BMK is a household name, especially his successes in spare part trades, then in successes in hotel industries, and his love for hospitality is amazing. So we'll miss him, and let's see. We allow families to get to terms, and I hope that the tradition should be maintained by the next generation of BMK family. You see, Haji Kabirji basically is a good human being, and before he becomes a good businessman, once he knows that pains of others has to be minimized, and you can grow your business on the basis of only one capital, which is trust. So I think he has built his business with that capital of trust for over 2 decades since I have known him. So we always believe in pushing the networking of Uganda Manufacturers Association by sharing not only the ideas, wisdoms, but also the business opportunities. So somehow he has always been a man of share and not of personal gains. So it has helped us to build our businesses with him. And obviously his success and our success, he has a great contribution. So we feel that his contribution is not in the field of making too much money, but his contribution is in making and establishing entrepreneurship for a very humble background. I think I know him when we were just very young, some X years ago, and he had a small spare part shops. So I feel that that is a big inspiration to so many youths like our youth here to emulate and stimulate the building of hope and integrity in the system, that in spite of all the challenges which he got in terms of family, in terms of businesses, he has always been carrying on. I think I still call him a young man of 70 because his spirit was not ever getting old. So I think it is a very big achievement in terms of role models for Ugandans, you know. We all are looking for somebody to emulate. So, especially for me and so many of our colleagues in the group, we always looked Mr. Kibiriji, Mr. Mulwana, and even our friend Baba Munno as the pioneer stepping stone in entrepreneurship and business. And they have really helped us to maintain the spirit of growth, prosperity for all concept. So I think that is the key area which he has taught us. Level playing field, sharing prosperity, and remaining happy with all. The business community is limping today because of this serious pandemic called COVID-19. And I think since World War II, 1939, the world is facing this as the biggest challenge. So, on a positive side, I think we should maintain the health and hygiene in terms of our day-to-day practices to prevent the further loss. I definitely agree that Kasita and very many business people, not only here in region of East Africa, I think we have lost about 50 quality leaders in business. So, of course, it will be a big tragic loss recovery program because we never expected so fast, so soon. But at the same time, you know that entrepreneurship and risk goes hand in hand. And we all know that we are all having a life. This is how life is. Uncertainties and mortality cannot be removed from our life as human beings. Forget about business alone. So I'm always saying that we should maintain the principles of life, that we all are mortal and going is a fixed thing. The only difference is that what type of lessons we can leave for securing the transformation and future of our next generation. Whether these youths, because they are 65% anyway, they should be trained in time so that they can take the baton without facing the crisis of security in the world now and the crisis of health. So I feel that health, security and economics are very interwoven issues. So somehow or another, I'm failing to come to terms that this is not a market share expansion and competition outcome in terms of big forces in the world, geopolitical, geo-business changes which are coming very fast, not only for today, but next 5 years also. So we should start becoming less lazy and recognize those subtle forces of geopolitics and geoeconomics, especially after digitalization of business. So I still feel that no next war is going to come on the battlegrounds. It should be based on these three fundamental pillars of economics, politics and security. Anyway, thank you, but as I said, I always don't claim to be an expert on these areas, I can just share my experiences basically. But business is a living entity which we normally, as Africans, we forget. And we feel the business is more related to the interest and benefits which we derive from the business. So when we don't focus as businesses on accountability and structures, the chances of professionalizing, which I think Mulwana and Mr. Kibirije is the pioneers from whom we have learned so far how to maintain the business, not only when we are not there, but also when we are there. So it helps that if you professionalize, give the business the structures needed. It's like our body. In the body we can't see the bones, structures. And we are only worried about veins and blood and brain all the time. But we don't see that the certain structure which is inside is keeping us going, whether it comes of health or in terms of sustained living with contributions. So I feel that as Ugandans and as human beings also, we have to play more emphasis on structures. And we should see that if the structures are there, the businesses can survive post-founder as a second generation or third generation. And I agree with you that Africa, we are weak in terms of building structures in businesses. So if we emphasize more on structures means that the work activities are defined and it is less personal as far as possible is concerned. So if we make the business more personal, then it is difficult to handle post-founder, member of the business. But if we make it less personal, I think so many times I find, even it took me a long time with the coaching of Uganda Manufacturers Association, that me and my business is different. But most of Ugandans and all of us take SHUMUK and MUKESH as one entity, which is very dangerous for not only post persons, but even to run the businesses. So if we can separate ourselves from business and keep some record keeping habits, then I'm sure we can improve on 3-generation business plan. My final message to especially BMK family is that as Uganda Manufacturers Association, we have already made advisory council in Uganda Manufacturers Association. They should quickly approach the advisory council, and the living members are still there. Mr. Babamunno is one of them, and they should start having some family meetings to make sure that they don't damage the business. This is my suggestion. It's not, I know it's a personal issues of the family, so that they can revive and maintain the businesses. The nice chairman, the Lady Mulwana, is also one of them. They will definitely give their helping hand to make sure that management of the businesses are not barred by internal family differences, if any, which I don't know. I'm sure that the next generation is already running the businesses. That's what I'm hearing. And I don't doubt their competence. So my advice is that if you take advice, there is nothing to lose. So this is not for them only, for all of us, that a structured association is already there. Hotel Owners Association is already there, where he has given leadership for so long. So I feel that if they go back to the advisory council members, living members, and maintain the business through their inputs for next 2 years at least, or one, until they sort out the absence issues of leading personality like Honorable Kibirichi. So thank you. Otherwise, there is no magic formula. I still emphasize people that most of the time we all ignore health in favor of business growth and money growth. So my advice is that if we can slow down a bit in terms of growth and focus on maintenance of immunity and health, like this nice tea which I am taking, and relax a bit. Don't give your brains too many issues to handle, and allow them that life is like this, and whatever occupation which we are in is a means to achieve a good life. It's not an end in itself. So that, God gracious, we pray and we make sure we come out of this pandemic and grow again. And I'm sure we'll do it. Thank you.
It has been a great pillar to fellow investors in the country, and we continue to say, may you so rest in eternal peace. Just a quick reminder that the country has greatly lost a businessman, and during one of the key eulogy speeches that I did notice was one of the eulogies that was presented by the Cathedral of Buganda from the Kabaka of the Kingdom as well, where he noted that BMK has actually been a great pillar in seeing the development of Buganda Kingdom as well. So greatly, the kingdom has also lost a great man in that particular regard. And also, the Cathedral of Buganda did mention that once he was given the authority to become the new Prime Minister of Buganda, BMK was among those few investors that reached out to him and sent him a letter congratulating him and as well welcoming him into the big seat in the Buganda Kingdom over there. All right, now moving on to the next one. The Uganda Railway Corporation has warned those encroaching on their land to vacate or else face forceful multiple law enforcement agencies. Officials from Uganda Railway Corporation made the revelation during a consultative meeting that saw them set out caution to the people who have already settled around their land. Take a look at this.
According to officials from Uganda Railway Corporation, various notes have been running since 1st April 2021 advising occupants on the land of railway line to vacate as they are not legal owners to this property. The deadline for leaving this land is 1st October 2021, and thereafter multiple law enforcement agencies will begin to demolish all the legal structures along the railway reserve land. Kira municipality leaders have welcomed plans to revamp the meter gauge railway, however on a condition that the affected residents are going to be compensated. Kawanao Isaac, the RDC Kira municipality, highlighted Uganda Railway on statutory of people and then advised the Uganda Railway construction to make research and pay the people.
They are also there comfortably. And when you ask them, they talk of 20 years, 30 years, over what? You know, that kind of stuff. Then educational institutions, they are also there. Then we also have a police institution. Shiraka Police Post is a station. So if we are dealing with those people squarely, then you can see results in the future. Then other activities also need to consider other activities taking place. Mayor has mentioned some. Bricklaying, artisans, washing bays, parking yards, accommodation, some have some rentals, and even others are doing some farming. So our team from Uganda Railway, my simple advice is make research. and engage these people. Way forward. Number one, there should be more engagement meetings of all stakeholders. I have mentioned above. Get a time, meet these different institutions, and forge a way forward through those engagement meetings. Two, as part of way forward, if there is compensation, if there is casino, all those two things must be done within the law. I cannot create my own law like this and you do this and this. But if the law is very clear and there is money for compensation, there is money for casino, depending on those categories I have mentioned above, you can do it quickly. Then C, we must support and have this project into reality because we don't want to be left behind. When you go to East African Federation, those countries, they are now ahead of us. So when you prepare and you have all those engagements, we must also be part.
The call came during a consultative meeting between the Uganda Railway Corporation management and Kira municipality leaders held in Chirika. According to Julius Mutebi, the mayor of Chira municipality, they are welcoming the development, but they rejected the fact that there won't be any form of compensation to the victims.
Nendino mukisa ntinzalibwa mu Chira municipality era nzalibwa mu Kireka mu kyalo Kirekasi okumenya okw'omulundi guli emyaka nga 6 we kwakoma okuva e Kampala ng'omukyala Nankulu Jennifer Musisi akyakulembera KCCA.
Encroachers on the land belonging to the Uganda Railway Corporation could soon be forced to vacate when a 6-month ultimatum expires. The corporation said the land would be used to revamp railway transport in the country. Over 4,000 people residing and working along the railway line have up to the end of September to vacate. Ibrahim Semujunganda, the Member of Parliament of Kira municipality, advised the railway people to stop crossfiring people who have settled on land or along the railway as encroachers.
Terminate life because you see, this railway, you are doing it on behalf of people, as you say. People must welcome it. And they can only do so when you have relocated them. Fine, because you see, I have many projects that are running in this constituency, in this area. And they all started the way you started by issuing a notice. The worker support, a notice was issued for 21 days. And everybody was asked to leave. Even military was brought and police. Because eventually matter.
Olivia Kantimbawazi, Smart 24.
I suggest if you are settling around, should I call them reserves for the trains or for the rails, I should suggest you should get away immediately. Because within no time, the government will definitely come over and vacate you because you are settled in what we call no man's land. It is the land that belongs to the railways, and in that particular aspect, they will come out and vacate you. So if I told you you're getting out there and you're settling in those areas, I did see a number of people who used to stay around there. When you go to Namuwongo, in those areas of Namuwongo, along the suburbs of Kampala, clearly. So you should be warned. That is according to Uganda Railway Corporation. Now moving on, the said Minister for Economic Monitoring, Peter Ogwang, has urged the public to report non-performing projects for effective monitoring. While addressing journalists in Kampala, he says there are some government officials who are deliberately behind the delay of government projects, adding that such acts have costed the country. Have a look at this.
The Apex platform will emphasize results and actions. We shall not entertain lamentations. Uninformed reports due to lack of data for any spelled out intervention. Whoever is blamed for not providing data will be brought before the President to explain himself or herself why the data cannot be availed to the government in time.
While addressing journalists, Peter Ogwang, the State Minister for Economic Monitoring, urged to all stakeholders to report non-performing projects for a comprehensive monitoring. The minister called on accounting officers to avail all programs to the resident district commissioners, saying that poor and slow implementation of government projects has costed this country and the time for entertaining lamentation is done.
If you know where there are non-performing projects, if you know where there's a government project which has stalled for so long, give me the information. This is the time for us to say what was wrong is wrong, how do we correct it. This is the time we must bring to book those errant accounting officers who are not helping the country achieve value for money and effective service delivery. So as far as my trip is concerned, I also had a meeting, and I want to thank my senior minister, Honorable Millie Babalanda. There was a meeting organized for the induction of the RDCs, DSOs, DPCs in the Greater Masaka. I was able to make a presentation on the role of the Resident District Commissioner in the implementation of government projects. And that's why you see today in my statement, I am making emphasis. There has been a challenge. Deliberately, the technical people deny the Resident District Commissioners information, and yet Article 203(3)(a) mandates the RDC to be the chief monitor of government programs. So why deny information? First of all, like you all know that there's a law as far as access to Information Act is concerned. So this, they were doing it knowingly, which denies the RDCs and the other district leaders upon to monitor this project.
Paragraph 55 of the budget circular for the financial year 2019-2020 states that the accounting office is required to submit quarterly performance reports by the 30th of the first month of the following quarter. These reports should clearly indicate the actual performance against the planned outputs and performance of each quarter, showing the quantity or the quality and the physical allocation of the reported outputs against expenditure.
Yeah?
The accounting officer always ensures that activities of the work plans are comprehensively quantified to justify funding, support implementation of the work plans by having clear and variable targets, and to enable assessment of management's performance. However, the minister is saying accounting officers don't want to avail the projects or reports to the RDCs for reasons best known by themselves. The biggest question is, should government officials deliberately delay government projects?
For instance, in Uganda, I got a project. It was a project under Ministry of Water and Environment. His Excellency the President commissioned that project in 2017. The project was meant to take 1.5 years. Unfortunately, there was a challenge, both technical and also with the contractor. The project delayed by 4 years. Imagine if I had not gone to inspect such a project, what would have happened? But as of today, I was able to bring both the ministry and the contractor to sit together, and I can guarantee we have agreed that in the next 6 months, that project will be what? Will be implemented as planned. However, the people who are responsible for the delays of this project, I want to confirm the Ministry of Water and Environment took action, removed them from the core implementation plan of this program. So that is how we are managing the work we are doing. It is true, I was in Kasese. Specifically, I went to check on the progress on the repair of Kazinga Channel. The first issue I identified when I reached the place was we had heavy traffic, which heavy traffic required UNRWA to have a second ferry in the Kazinga Channel so that it gives people to move within a shorter distance so that there is a lot of turnover for the movements of people. The second issue, I was able to meet the contractor on site, but asked the contractor why there were delays. I am happy. I caused the meeting, and I want to thank the ED UNRWA. She was spot on. We were able to agree with the contractor that the work to be carried out in the repairs of Kazinga Channel will be completed early this October. So that is the progress what is taking place. I was in Mulago National Referral Hospital. Mulago National Referral Hospital is undertaking a 30 billion project to construct houses for the health workers in Mulago. It is true, like I told you earlier on here, we need to be checking these projects before they begin the construction. And we must be cognizant of the fact that we need to look at the BOQs. Is what is being put on the project, is it what is planned for, or it's not? In most cases, we don't have time to look at that. You find if an iron bar of maybe say 6-10 millimeters is planned as per the BOQs, they can afford to put an iron bar of 2 millimeters, which entirely has a big impact on how that building or that house will be. So as far as Mulago National Referral Hospital is concerned, a few defects which I identified, I have put it in writing, notified the management of Mulago National Referral Hospital, and I'm happy they communicated back to me, cross-checked with our technical people, we're on the right course. But that does not mean that I will stop there. I'll continue checking on these programs.
The Uganda's development is a testimony to the government's efforts in embracing social inclusion through dedicating programs and by creating an enabling environment that gives its citizens better access to service delivery by implementing government projects. The failure to implement planned activities, according to the minister, is likely to affect the country's ride to the middle-income status. Uganda aspires to become an upper middle-income country by 2040, as spelled out by the Ugandan Vision 2040. The vision sets out to achieve a per capita income of US $9,500, as well as improving the well-being of all Ugandans to upper middle-income standards. These aspirations will be realized through proper implementation of projects. The biggest question is, shall Uganda reach middle-income status when we still have leaders who deliberately delay to implement projects for their selfish interests? Pedson Mumbere, Smart.
Now the big question, the biggest question is, shall Uganda reach middle income status when we still have leaders who deliberately delay in terms of implementation for their selfish demands? That is up to you as a viewer there. Thanks, Pedson Mumbere, for that particular story. Let's take a short break. I return with more business stories. This is SMB.